Time to talk about our next semi-final here at Gamers8. It is going to be Solar going up against Cure. We've just had TVZ. Now you've got even more on the board here between our two Koreans vying for an opportunity in that final. Loco, Rotterdam joining me here. Loco, I'm going to start with you first here. Solar going up against Cure. Talk to me.
I find this a very difficult one to predict, to be honest. I've been thinking about this one for a little bit. We see them facing off against each other so often in online tournaments that we decided to look it up. They've played nearly 500 tournament maps against each other over the last decade. Like, literally the first time they faced against each other was in 2014. So they've been playing against each other so frequently, and they've been going back and forth ever since. It's about 50-50. I would say that right now, Cure is probably slightly favored just because his gameplay is just incredibly impressive. But it's really difficult for me to call this one.
Ready?
Solar's CVT has looked pretty damn good so far throughout this tournament, though. He did take down the reigning world champion Oliveira. He did take down Clem as well in the group stage, and this was an offline Clem that was clearly very strong because he beat Dark, he beat Maru as well, but he could not defeat Solar. The only one that Solar lost to is Maru, but that could almost be like a weird mental thing where Solar just feels he cannot beat Maru, but against every other Terran on this planet, Solar looks pretty devastating. As Loco said, it is very tough, not just because historically it's so close between these shows, but also because we don't really know how well Cure is going to do on a stage this big. It's not in Korea, because if you ask me when is the last time that Cure was in the semi-finals overseas, I'm drawing blanks over here because I cannot remember that for the life of me.
No, I agree. As we take a look as the Mount Vitos is about to begin between these two players. And I have to echo the same sentiment. I mean, for me, again, these two players, yes, they've been able to win championships. Yes, they've won tournaments along the way and stuff like that. But it's never been the big one. It's never really been. They've always kind of been in the shadow a little bit of your Marus, of your Rogues when he was around and stuff like that. So is this an opportunity for one of these guys to finally kind of break that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm with you. I think both of these players, they have been for most of their career overshadowed by some of those more successful players. It's not that they haven't had their own successes. Both of them have won tournaments, but it's just not as consistent as some of those other players. And honestly, Reiner is looking incredibly strong right now. So I feel like going into the finals, he's probably going to be the favorite regardless, but we'll get to that a little bit later.
I'm really curious to see how much the experience is going to matter here, because even if Solar has not had the same career as a Dark and a Rogue, the ultimate big tournament players, Solar has been pretty damn successful throughout his career. And he is no stranger to semi-finals on a big international stage. Quarterfinals, that's pretty much a lock for Solar. For Cure, this is almost like uncharted territory. And he looked good against Classic, but it wasn't as clean as it's always been. But then again, quarterfinals, Classic was the best product in this tournament, so we can't expect a flawless performance there perhaps, but this is going to be a banger series. I do really hope a bit more back and forth than the previous one. I don't know, man. I'm excited.
It is going to be good. It is going to be good as we get into our semi-final now. The winner will move on to that grand final to play against Reina. Both of these players have always been on the precipice of greatness. If they're able to get to the finals and win it all, they could become one of the true greats. Let's do it.
Wow, Fancy, I can't believe we've gotten this far in the tournament, and I'm so sad to see so many excellent players go, but I am so excited to see what these games hold.
2 more matches and we're gonna know who's gonna be the champion for Gamers8. أعزائي المشاهدين، المباراة نصف النهائي الثانية راح تبدأ اللحظة هذه. زي ما احنا عارفين سولر وكيور أدائهم كان جدا عظيم، قدروا انهم يطلعون أبطال العالم، قدروا انهم ينافسون الكل في الجروب ستيج وأيضا في الكوارتر فاينلز بالأمس، لكن اليوم بيكونون ضد بعض، بيكون عندنا أول كوريان ماتش اب. هذا الشيء اللي أنا متحمس له أكثر شيء صراحة.
Yeah, actually, an all-Korean matchup on this side, a European matchup on the other side. You couldn't write a better script. And I mean, I checked out a lot of the script options for this tournament. This was my favorite one. What do you mean? We're just gonna win, and then he's gonna, and then there's gonna be the. You know what? We'll let you watch it live as it happens.
أعزائي المشاهدين، جاء الوقت أن نرحب فيه اللاعبين على المسرح، لأنه الآن بيكون عندنا أفضل ماتش ممكن نتخيلها في السيمي فاينلز. الفائز منهم راح يتوجه على طول مع رينر في الجراند فاينل، وبيكون يحصل على اللاين شير من $400,000 الجائزة للبطل لستار كرافت.
Yes, the winner of this will be going against Reiner in the grand final, and wow, the lion's share of that prize pool is certainly appealing, so I cannot wait to see who takes it home. But you know what? Everybody's winning a big chunk at this point.
Honestly, nobody's a loser here. Everyone getting so much fun and having so much experience being on this LAN tournament. And we heard Reino just now saying that it's one of the biggest tournaments that he has ever participated in. So it's going to be amazing, and I can't wait for the match to start. لكن أعزائي المشاهدين لازم نذكر الهيستوري اللي بينهم. كيور وسولر بينهم هيستوري جدا عريق. بس قبل ما نقدر أن نتكلم عن الهيستوري هذا، خلونا أول شيء نرحب باللاعبين على المسرح.
It's an incredible tournament that we have here at Gamers8. A beautiful first step for StarCraft in Riyadh. I cannot wait to see what the future holds for StarCraft, and we're writing that future right now as this next match is about to kick off. Let's bring out our players, I think. From Onside Gaming, Solar! Solar started the event with a win over the IEM champion Oliveira. Now, hot off a win eliminating tournament favorite Serral, Solar is headed for a rematch against another Basilisk Zerg if he can just make it through GSL finalist Cure.
سولر من فريقه اون سايد وصل للمسرح. اذا مشاهدين هذا اللاعب اللي قدر انه في اول مباراه له في جيمرز 8 يتغلب على اوليفيرا الاي ام كرافيتسا تشامبيون في السنه هذه بطل العالم. زياده على كذا في مباراته بالامس قدر يهزم سيرال، الشخص اللي كل اللاعبين اللي عندنا في البطوله يقولون احنا جايين عشان نهزم سيرال فقط، وهو اللي قدر يسوي له اليمينيشن بنفسه بعد مباراه كانت وان سايد بشكل مفاجئ صراحه. لكن جاء الوقت نشوف مين خصمه، كلكم تعرفون مين هو، خلونا نرحب فيه على المسرح. ممثل لفريق أبيدوس كيور. كيور طول الجروب ستيج كانت مبارياته في الباك ستيج ما عدا مباراة واحدة فقط وفازها أيضا على المسرح، لكن بالأمس سوى الشيء اللي الكل كان متفاجئ منه، هزم كلاسيك أحد المفضلين بفوز البطولة اللي كان مسمى الأندردوغ، الشخص اللي تغلب على الشامبيونز كلهم هو بنفسه قدر يتغلب عليه ويطلعه من البطولة، والآن قدامه سولر فقط عشان يكون العقبة الأخيرة للوصول إلى الجراند فاينل.
Cure was the one to put a stop to Classic's tear. Recent history favors him in this matchup, but all of these players are writing a brand new chapter here at G8. He fought his way through Dark Zerg. Can he stand against Solars?
سولر وكيور في آخر مرة تواجهوا فيها كان في الجي اس ال السنة هذه 2023، وقدر كيور في آخر 3 مباريات إنه يتغلب عليه 2-0، فأكيد إنه سولر بيكون عنده فرصة إنه يصفي حساباته معاه الآن في المسرح، وبعدها راح نشوف من اللي ممكن يتقدم إلى جراند فاينل.
Solar, Cure, please join us center stage.
صمت حال عليهم كلهم، ولا واحد منهم قال شيء، فقط سلموا على بعض وتوجهوا الى الستيشنز لان جاهزين الان نعرف مين بيكون الجراند فاينالست الثاني معنا في جيمرز 8، وعلى طول نروح مع المعلقين نكمل المباراه.
It's time to start our final semi-final match. Let's go.
It's another fantastic Terran versus Zerg on the way as we have Solar versus Cure. And this match will be determining who will make it into those grand finals to face Raynor. Could be a ZVZ, could be a ZVT. As Rachel said, these guys are kind of making new chapters for themselves. While Solar does have a losing record against Cure overall for the year, we really don't know what to expect in Gamers 8.
No, and this has been a tournament of surprises. It's been a tournament of anything can really happen, right? And yeah, I mean, this is unfounded territory. Roddy said it in the pre-show. When do you see Q at these big international events offline in the semi-finals or final? You don't. But we've all been waiting for him to make this run. He's looked like a phenomenal Terran player over the years. He's just never been able to make that push forward in these bigger offline international events. Solar, he has been here. Maybe not quite as far as the semi-finals so frequently, but he maybe has been a bit better at these international events. So it's a real great setup. It's going to be a fairy tale for whoever makes the finals, never mind if they go on to win it all. So very big series, exciting series. They play a lot, but this is for everything. The most important series they've probably ever played against each other.
Exactly. They've played in a couple of offline tournaments, of course, such as the GSL, and I'm sure they do feel some nerves there as well. But to be put on this stage in more of a weekend tournament, I know it's been 4 days, but just the action that is packed into such a limited amount of time, limited amount of preparation, can favor one player or another depending on their style. Let's see who is favored here today as we head into game number 1 on Ancient Cistern. In the top right, as the red Terran, he is Cure.
In the bottom left, representing Onside Gaming, our blue Zerg player is Solar.
Of course, the last time these guys played offline in the GSL, it did not end up super good for Solar. It kind of felt like he was still getting the momentum going in the entire group in that day, honestly. Cure did kind of... bobbum's not the right word. First game was actually pretty cool, but the second game, it was clear that Cure just really had a strong read and a strong build that really worked out against Solar, who was a little surprised by a bit of a mech, actually, from Cure. So I wonder if we're going to see that again this best of 5.
Yeah, I was thinking this as well. It was some cool strategies from Cure, right? It wasn't just play super standard and kind of go. It was kind of a Cure taking a little bit from his TVP almost, right? Like, he's not afraid to do things a bit diverse in that matchup, and he really seemed to apply it to TVZ in that series against Solar and GSL. Typically, if I see Cure in TVZ, I'm like, pretty stock standard. 3 bases, let's get some Hellions out, yada yada. But in that series, it was a very creative Cure, and wondering what he's going to bring in this one. We already see a 2-racks-based opener here on Ancient Cistern, so Reaper's on the way immediately. And just in that GSL matchup as well, we saw him, happy to not just go into like super normal expansions behind this, but also add on extra barracks, really go super aggressive. Ancient is seen as a strong Zerg map, probably the strongest Zerg map in the 5 maps we'll see, because I'm assuming Cure did veto altitude. And so if that's the case, opening with these Reapers and maybe doing something a bit quirky after could be his way to just sort of steal a map away from Solar.
That's very true. I think that could absolutely happen. This 2-racks opener meta that's really developed and then now been perfected, I suppose, with the help of Beyond, I think, really being the champion of it for so long, has now reached out to all the other Terrans, especially out there in Korea. So we do have Cure and Maru doing it quite a bit. Even Gumiho, of course, master of builds, will throw that in every now and again. And it's just a really good build for the slight less economical opener that you get with it. You get all these options that the Zerg player can never be certain of because you're protected behind the 2-racks.
Yeah, you hide information, you've got so many follow-ups, it's just so powerful. And again, the freedom and the ability to say, hey, I can do so many things behind this, that's where the power really comes from. Just the ability to switch it up and not always do the same follow-up. And even if we play super standard behind it this time, it's got to be on Solar's mind about the last time he played against Cure doing this.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's such a safe build as well. We did see Zerg players try and counter this when Beyond was still developing it. They were going for those early Roach Warrens, and initially it seemed like that was a bit of a counter. And then again, Beyond, I feel like, really proved that nothing could strongly counter it, as he even went for forward bunkers to defend the Roach rushes. So it's just a super strong build, one that Cure will probably rely on quite a bit in this entire series. For this game, he is going to be adding on that quick 3rd CC.
Yep, just going to go very standing behind all of this. The Tech Lab, the Reactor now on the way up the factory as well to set the stages. I do love this, though, just being annoying with these Reapers, picking off every single Zergling that he can. I think I said it earlier in the tournament, casting some Cure TVZ. He isn't the player that strikes me as this kind of Reaper player, right? Like, I don't think of him as like the Maru or the Beyond to do this, or the Clem. But he was so good with the Reapers in that earlier match. Very cool to see him bringing it out strong here today in the first game.
Cure's really one of those guys just makes a statement from his overall play. It's not necessarily that I think of one particular thing about Cure, it's just that everything is good to the point that he is, well, if Maru didn't exist, like, he certainly would be the best Terran, as he is the only one that also takes to Maru in TVT most of the time. But unfortunately, Maru does exist, so Cure's been denied some of those Korean victories. But he's just overall so solid, and then the fact that his TVP was so incredible, and his TVT, again, was so good. We have another factor on the way already. It was his TVZ that for a little bit felt a little bit, unmotivated is not the right word, but just not very inspirational. And then it felt like he also fixed that up to once again be super solid in the early, mid, and late game. And now he has this kind of new meta to play with as well, which he's been doing a very good job at. And yeah, that second factory, that quickly, it's interesting.
That is very interesting. Definitely a little bit unique. Definitely something a little bit offbeat.
Wait, is he going to cancel Stim and go into mech?
Go mech?
Oh
wow.
my god.
Oh, what a play!
Oh, Cure. Okay, I was just like, he just does things really solid. And, it's, I don't know if it's special. And then he does this. Awesome stuff here from Cure. Solar going to be really bamboozled. He's absolutely not expecting this. I'm sure he thought about something like it because of their GSL game, but as soon as he sees Stim that far along, he's like, there's no way that can actually happen. and it's actually happening. Even that last second, the cancel into putting it back on just in case those Lings got close enough. Oh, Cure, he's coming out with the builds, man.
Oh, the only thing that Solar maybe could have seen is the barracks not producing, obviously seeing a lower Marine count, but he's even building and canceling Marines as well. I mean, Cure is doing everything he can to just sell this. Hellions and Reapers denying the information, and I mean, Solar's build is really not good against this. Double Evo Chamber, no sign of a lair. This is one of those moments where a couple minutes down the line, Cure might just be across the map killing everything Solar has.
Yeah, this is actually just a very convincing fake. I mean, it just... and it's going to be so similar to their GSL game, too. And Cure did end up really having a very easy game that time. That's what really made it feel like this the series was a bop, was because the second game was so convincing from Cure. Solar basically kind of last second realized what was happening and then tried to get his feet under him, but could not, as Cure was relentless, because, of course, this is BattleNet. You know, we're not going into tanks, which would be very slow and just wouldn't really be all that impressive, I feel like, as far as the fake goes. But this is going to get on to Solar's side of the map. Even as Solar now realizes something is up, Cure's already set up quite well.
Yeah, Solar's been desperately scouting a Ling here, a Ling there, and he's just like, man, I only ever see the Italians, but I think seeing that Tech Lab not continuing into, say, a combat shield, really never haven't seen the Marines at any point, he's starting to figure out, yeah, Roachron might be kind of the way I take this, and obviously he'll get further confirmation soon, I am sure. As that single circling will go down, the Hellions, the Reaper still just guarding for the moment. But as we're moments away from Blue Flame and Macfield Accelerator, this Hellion Cyclone attack will move across the map. Solar does have some money, but he drops a Hydra Den down. He needs to start building roaches right now.
Yeah, I think that maybe he thought something was up, but perhaps not. This is a bit too greedy as BattleNet is on the way over. It doesn't necessarily end game super quickly, but if the ball gets rolling, it is very difficult to stop, which is exactly what happened. Yeah, I said that he figured something out because he built a Roach one and then canceled it, apparently, because he's rebuilding it now. This is a disaster for Solar, as he's going to have such a tough time getting a foothold in this battle.
Oh, what an awful start for him as these Cyclones just locking on, and obviously the Hellions can just kite backwards. If you do see a Ling run by, that will cause some trouble for Cure back at home as he trades decently across the map. He will have to take a few moments to go and deal with that. Yeah, canceling the Roach run was brutal as well, because it was so close to finishing, he decided, no, nothing's actually coming my way. I am actually safe here. And then boom, this happens. Good counterattack, great idea. You've got to do something, because you're not going to win the fight straight up on this side. Yeah,
for a while the Queens will tank and it'll look okay, but then suddenly they'll run out of transfuses and they will start going down. Exactly what you see before you. The Lings are getting on top of some reinforcements, but there's just enough Hellions with those, the Blue Flame to actually take that down, and the Cyclones will eventually reinforce this position. Solar desperate for a surround, does not seem to have enough Lings, and those Banelings just a second away from having the Baneling speed. The Reapers from earlier helping out as well, and Solar's once again pushed back.
Reinforcing showing up from Cure here. What a beautiful Reaper grenade that was as well, and yes, there is just too much right now. The last few Banelings going to try and find a target. They will take down a Reaper, maybe a Hellion, but really not that much. This hatchery is in trouble, and Solar is going to be frustrated at this, losing his own map pick in game one to a fantastic fake of Cure is massively infuriating. GG's, and Cure strategizes his way to a game one victory.
Oh yeah, okay, now I'm really excited, Wardy. That was awesome. That was great. The time before in that GSL, it was, I checked, you know, because I was like, wait a minute. No, it was a 1-Rax expand. It was more typical. And so this time around, opening up with that 2 racks that again just makes it so obscure what the world is happening behind that. But then using it, the fact that it's on the front line to be like, yeah, that's Stim. Yeah, that's Stim. Yeah, that's Stim. Obviously, the 100-100 does delay the other aspects of the build a little bit, but so worth it for such a convincing fake bio.
Yep, there's one Ling. This is such a great highlight because, yeah, it looks like bio, right? And he sent so many Lings forward, and he just never got convincing information was anything else. And like you said, for a moment, he kind of believed. He started to build the Roachron, and then nothing showed itself for so long. He was like, no, I'm second-guessing myself. So he triple-guessed himself and canceled the Roachron just as a Cyclone showed itself on creep. Just a disastrous start from Solar, but it's all due to the, again, strategy that Cure picked and hit well.
Yeah, no, and that's a really important thing here is that, you know, Solar probably, did triple guess himself, and that just makes it more worrying that he'll be doing that in the future as well. That next time it really is bio, is it really bio? Should I add the Roach Warren? Okay, maybe I don't need the Roach Warren, but it's still a very suboptimal build. And when you're at suboptimal as a bio attack happens, which is generally faster, they get those units over there, then you just, again, the snowball starts for Cure.
It's a very unnerving start to the series for Solar because now, like you say, every game past this, do you have to super consider all of these things? Well, yeah, probably you do, but that's not really very fun to do, and it's not going to let you play your game. And A horrible way to start it off. Let's see if he can rebound. Down a map and looking to fight back. Our blue Zerg from Onsite Gaming, Solar.
And in the top left as the red Terran for Abydos, he is Cure.
I agree. What a cool way to start the series. And now we're going to play 2 racks again because it's Grezvan and everyone does it on Grezvan. And now you have so many choices of what you do after once again.
Yep. Last time they played it was the 4x follow-up, I believe.
Yes.
So applying that pressure, and even then, even if you were to scout that build, the way the Terran can use it, whether they actually trigger the Marines or not to jump after you, can be also difficult to decide and work against. So it's, I mean, basically we're in a time period where Terrans are really successful at making the Zerg second guess themselves.
Which is kind of fascinating because for such a long time, TVZ openings have been, hey, you kind of know what I'm doing, right? Like, I know I'm going to go for an expansion with Hellions. I'm probably going to take 3 command centers. And yeah, I might go Banshees, I might go Liberator, but the general idea of what I'm up to is pretty well set out. And you just send an Overlord in, double check it's a 3rd CC, right? Sometimes it's a Hellbite attack, and they don't win anyway. And nowadays, it is just these Reapers, and you can deny information and do so many different aggressive things after.
You know what's so cool, actually, Wardy, too? Just thinking about the storyline that's been set up here for the semifinals. Obviously, we had the non-Korean versus Korean side of the bracket, but we're also having the non-Korean TVZ and the Korean TVZ displayed as well. That's just super cool, because it would not have been that long ago that the TVZs would have meshed in our minds.
Yes.
Would have been like, oh, both of them did 3 CC 5 games in a row. That's great.
No, it's very true, right? Nowadays, it's just so different. And even Clem, for a long time when the Reapers started up, he didn't really adapt into the Reapers. And then just more recently, he was like, actually, I'm a Reaper man as well. And, you know, then he started kind of putting his own still macro take on it, where the Koreans are like a little bit more aggro. Very, very fun. 6 Lings here from Solar initially, as he is obviously defending against 2 racks of Reapers. Cure puts his first expansion down. Solar does get the 3rd hatch down before the Reapers initially show up.
Yeah, which is, you know, Zerg players, I think when this very first showed up, when it was a surprise build, like, oh, what are 2 racks on the front lines? They would get their 3rd hatch drone interrupted just because they didn't realize, they didn't take precautions, and then that would be a disaster. That would straight up be a disaster, like almost game ending. Now, that's not usually the problem, but we have also seen in this tournament, right, someone actually killed the 3rd hatch with Reapers in a bunker, to be fair.
That was Mario against Solar, right?
Exactly, there you go. So, you know, it does need the bunker to really have a chance at killing it, but I've seen that hatchery go down as low as 20%, even without the bunker. Obviously, Cure not really going for that, is just trying to get as many pickoffs as possible, and if he actually got this Queen, that would be excellent.
Yeah, I was going to say that Queen was in a very dangerous spot. The Lings had to give a few of themselves up just to make sure the Queen was going to be protected, which in the end it was. It does stay alive. It does get further back now, so good save there. As Solar, is he just going to go for a Ling Bane Burst? That's a super early Baneling Nest. Q is going to 3 CC, and this is one of the weaknesses of this build. You don't have Hellions or anything, so an unseen Baneling Burst can be deadly.
No, that's actually a very good point. That's going to be interesting. I have not yet seen this Ling Baneling Burst against this particular build. The opener and the follow-up as well, which is 3rd CC, by the way, guys. There is a chance that it could have been a 4 racks, and even then Ling Baneling might have been good against it if it had enough steam behind it, basically. But it is at 3 CC, and Cure, has he actually figured this out? He hasn't seen the Lings.
No, he has no idea because the Reapers are just holding at the front. They can't go too aggressive. And now maybe they start thinking about pulling back. They obviously feel very safe on Grezvan positions they can jump down from, so they're not going to run all the way home. And there's no defense here. We have double engineering base starting 1-1 upgrade. Solar says, nuh-uh, I'm done playing your game. It's time for you to play mine.
Excellent maneuver here from Solar. I mean, the chance to win this game based off of this, but then also take control of the best of 5 once again is at stake right now as the Banelings are on the way. Cure still has no idea that wall is going to go down, and what does he have behind it?
2 Marines right now, I'm pretty sure. Absolutely nothing else. The Baneling Burst comes through. Q's going to start retreating away, but he has no high ground wall, remember. The Lings are going to get their full wrap around. The Baneling connects. SCVs are dropping, and Q's hopes in game 2 are dropping as well.
Oh, he's completely dead, actually. This is way too many Lings. Sometimes early Ling Baneling Bust, they can run short pretty quickly on the follow-up, but no, this is enough. The 3 Reapers come home, but only after 18 SCVs have already died. More to come as well. Kier not willing to tap out quite yet, knows that Solar must be on such a low drone count, and he is on 3 CC. Oh! But one more Baneling comes in here and brings brings him down to 2 and then 1. Yeah, that's not going to be enough SCVs to recover.
You cannot recover from that one. Absolutely no way. As we do get the wall up, Kira knows how important this match is. He will try absolutely everything. The wall up is going to go down, though, and that means these Lings will get rid of the final few units. The couple Marines will not do much. The Baneling coming to threaten as well from the main base of the Terran. And yeah, as the Reapers fall and all the rest, Solar can just keep on building. A scan from Q to double check. GG is called, and Solar ties up the series.
Nicely done by Solar. Very important to get that one on the board, but in such decisive fashion, he has really taken away the momentum. Because if he had to grind out a super long game where he was even slightly behind on Grespon, but he still won it, I still wouldn't be fully convinced about Solar in this entire best of 5, but that was a real statement to counter the statement Cure just made.
Yes. It really was like, hey, I'm not just going to play your game every time. You can't just get away with things. I'm also going to make moves. You also have to be on top of what I'm doing. So both players really just getting kind of a strategy, build order choice, kind of victory on the board. And we're yet to really see that kind of later game, like, hey, look what I'm going to do, like, let's macro. So maybe we still have that to come, but for now, both of them showing that they can be very aggressive, very fun early game. And yeah, I just don't think you can hold this, especially when you go double engineering base and everything. It's just impossible when you have so little information ahead of time. Yeah,
I'm even wondering what would have happened had he been able to pick up on it with the Reapers, you know, and then I assume if he picked up with the Reapers, the Lings would have then gone ahead and killed the Reapers, so you're 3 units less out of like the 6 that you had.
Yeah.
And then can you afford a double wall? I'm pretty sure you can't. Like, this could be very, very hard build order counter, so very nice decision there by Solar. I guess the one thing is that, you know, it was also a little blind. There is a chance that there wasn't just 3CC or the 4 racks follow-up, that it was like a, you know, swapping a Hellions or a Banshee or something. But that is now done, and we get into game 3. Moving on to Babylon in the top left as the Red Terran. He is Cure.
In the bottom right, happy to tie up this series, our Blue Zerg player, Solar.
Considering how close that was at the end and the chance that Cure could have had apparently 10 SCVs maybe at the end there too, I do wonder, the 4 racks might have held against that, right? Just enough Marines if you respond fast enough?
Yeah, definitely. It's still going to hit before the 3rd and 4th racks are truly online in any
True,
big way.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously it's a question of he's 10 SCVs, but he's 2 bases, let's say.
Right,
instead of 3 bases,
true,
so then you don't have as much recovery, so Solar macros out more easily.
Yeah.
It is interesting, right? Because there's so many follow-ups you could go up against. There's so many ways in which actually, like, maybe Solar does enough damage to then macro out. Maybe in some cases he doesn't do enough.
Yeah.
It's kind of a bit gambly.
Yeah, basically what I'm wondering for out loud here is just because it sounds like it would be good against a lot of builds. Because there's a third option behind that, which is like a 2-1-1 option, in which, you know, Bjorn does it a lot. He sneaks in a Banshee, but that's such an early Ling Banling bust. That also wouldn't have a lot to say about it. It's just, you know, but if it was such a hard counter, I think we'd be seeing it a lot more from the Zerbs in this 2 racks meta.
That's very true. As our hatch has gotten down already, and we do get ourselves ready for the expansion from the Terran 2. So our first few moments here are going to be extremely normal. Obviously, first time we're not going to be seeing the double racks of Reapers, and first time we might be seeing something more towards a mid-game between these 2.
Well, certainly this is a way to protect yourself against that, I believe, as we go into probably typically into those Hellions. That is literally what Hellions are good for, is defending against the earlier Ling Banling bust. The truly all-in one, like on 2 bases, definitely defendable. No Pro Zerg really does that anymore. Or that 3 hatch that can surprise you. It basically goes down to, are you microing your Hellions, which, you know, most of these Pro Terrans are.
Yeah, most Pro Terrans do the micros.
Yeah,
fair to say.
Most of them. Someone's going to bring up a clip of one guy really embarrassingly losing a Ling Banling bust, and I'm like, oh, whoops, well, see, that's why I said most of them.
Reaper comes in, obviously starts to dance with these Zerglings. Not as much pressure as before because it's just going to be the one Reaper. It will try to get a Zergling kill before the Queen pops out, but Solar's micro is absolutely on point here. He'll take a little bit of damage on a drone. Reaper cannot chase because the Lings protect. And just very good control across the board as Kua instantly heads into his 3rd command center. 3rd hatchery gets down from Solar, and it's all aboard the macro train for the moment.
I'm really happy I share the same mouse as Cure. Not the mouse pad, though.
You don't have that? Is your mouse blue as well?
It's the same exact mouse.
It's the same exact color and everything? It's a
Yeah,
cool
it's the wireless mouse, yeah.
Can't believe you don't like the mouse pad, though.
I just said I didn't have one.
You don't have one?
I didn't say anything else. Well, happy. But yeah, we do have Kier going into that starport now. So if it's on a Banshee, you know, whether it's cloaked or not, I mean, this is really the safest thing that you can do as a Terran player while still getting a foundation that's really going to work out for you in the mid game. So as we head into Babylon, you know, Breastfun, I think everyone is a little scared. Is that going to be your 40-minute game? Babylon is a little less so. That's that Fright. But the 3CC is pushing us to more of a macro game than the previous games.
Yeah, but of course, the more macro game can still be aggressive, of course, right? And we saw that.
Yeah, the first game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it can still be, you know, a lot of different things. You see the Banshee startup here from Cure. So see if he also wants to head into Cloak once he gets the gas for it. Hellion Banshee really is the stock standard at TVZ. It's been around for years. Even some of our Legends players have, you know, played these build orders in their past. So yeah, Hellion Banshee has been around for quite a bit.
I actually want someone to go and find out when was the first use of Hellion Banshee. Would have been on one base.
One base, yeah. Those ones don't count.
No, those ones don't count. There's also Siege Tank, the Siege upgrade for the tank on the way, and we're like, well, this just doesn't count. This is too weird. But Hellion Banshee it is with that cloak as well, so an actual double Banshee going to arrive, and Solar is going to scout this and be fairly certain this is legit. Now, this Overload will die, I guess, before it truly confirms an actual bio follow-up. That's what Solar wouldn't know, but... well, no, I mean, considering the first game, unless his confidence has been renewed from the second, like, he's definitely going to try and get some secondary scouts.
Yeah, just wants to absolutely ensure what, you know, is going on is what he thinks is going on, basically, as the lair starts up first for him as well. So he's kind of out the window with all these greedier things, just saying, hey, look, let's just get set up into my tech. The balance speed can start early. I'll have mobile detection if necessary. He's not skipping the beat on the spore crawlers either, so he should be pretty well prepped here. And again, just continues to drive us into this macro position. Yeah,
definitely our more standard macro game so far. No surprise mech from Cure Sim is well along the way. Alongside those barracks, and for Solar, play correct to go into Ling, Baneling. And we're going to see, I think, you know, a 4 versus 5 base type situation. Babylon then does have a couple of tricky spots, actually, exactly as this hatchery is taken. Cure probably going to send some tanks over there to the top right and abuse that, and we'll see how that works out. I guess the next question would be, is it an 8-racks dedication first, or is it into a fast fourth, like 7-minute fourth CC? I'll wait a minute and 20 seconds to find out as the Banshees find 2 drones and skedaddle.
The Terran players always love the 8-racks after the Banshees, because if the Banshees just get a few drones, right, it sets you up so well to start dealing damage to the 8-racks and everything. So, not saying that that's what this will be, but this is typically a more aggressive map as well. And this top right side, you know, it doesn't have a lot of creep going for it straight away either. So it is a bit easy to push up into to begin with, as the Hellions will just deny some creep on the bottom.
Yep, decent amount of Hellions. Should do some work here. We saw earlier on in the tournament, you know, Oliveira try to combine the Banshee and the Hellion. That was kind of a cool little twist on the typical opener, but this really is just the typical. no twists here, as the Banshees do have to evacuate. I mean, as far as the Banshees go, 2 drones, that's something that they got, but usually I would say a lot of the time the Terran player keeps them like 80% healthy, both of them, and keeps just poking away at the creep or maybe even the hatchery a little bit longer, but they have to go home, and now perhaps they'll just settle as anti-run-by defense. Probably is what they're going to do.
Hellions going to nibble through these rocks, open up a little bit, a few queens up to the top side as the Hellions will come about. A couple queens are going to put some damage in. One upgrade to the combat shield, Marines in the tank all continue to produce. And we just wait for this first push to get moving into this upper right-hand side as the upgrades finish. There's going to be Kira ready to go. He preserved his Hellions as well.
Yeah, and that armory is fast.
Yeah,
as you can see, 1-1 is still on the way, so this is a nice little addition. Because still a bit of a twist with the opener here, as we do expect the tank follow-up, but to include Hellbats as well. A little more chunk to this army. The Baneling's going to have to be careful not to just waste themselves on the Hellbats only.
Yeah, the armory really came down very fast. I didn't mention, I was like, you know, we just saw Clem get some upgrades for a while. Let's make sure our armory's nice and early. But yeah, putting it to use, it was an intentional decision. And Kira just kind of using it to, again, be scary, right? At this point, Soul's like, oh goodness, this is scary. Got to make sure I've got enough units. Kira is very ready to just back away, not actually take this fight. He's going to lead this into the siege tank as well. If the Hellbats trade out with Balance, I think he's pretty okay with that as well. And this is a good fight for him.
Yeah, Kjur did a nice job bringing that back, not getting surrounded and having the tank have many opportunities for good shots on the banelings. He's going to immediately reinforce, not just with the units that were already on his third, but also just speeding over the medevacs with more units. And Solar might be a little surprised by that. Suddenly there is a gigantic army, really, in the context of this game, on your doorstep, even leapfrogging one of those tanks forward, getting dangerously close to the hatchery. It's not going to be shot at quite yet by the tanks, but the Marines will always shoot at it and then back away to the tanks, and Solar's always got to be careful about that chase.
Banshees find nothing on the bottom side, but I do love the army setup as well of Kjur up here. He's just keeping enough at the front to be scary, but he's keeping a lot in the back off tree, but he's a little bit clumped up, and he's a bit slow to respond now to the lift up. It's the evacuation. He will lose the siege tanks. He's going to try and unload on the low ground, but there's banelings there. Good movement from Solar. He recognized what Kjur wanted to try and do, and he stopped it from getting anywhere. That's
true. That was an excellent surround. Certainly enough units to make that work, but the reason that I kind of was like, oh god, because the tank actually got one more shot than I thought it would, and it was right into the heart of the baneling, so certainly a less efficient trade than Solar would hope for. You know, any Zerg would hope for, right? As soon as they set up that big surround and they say, I have enough units and you're going to have to move away, they really want it to be fast and snappy in the most efficient way possible. But not so much, which means that Kjur, of course, getting some damage done, now moving into more of that drop phase of 4-base Terran, as he does have his 4th on the way. The Banshees make a reappearance here on that 4th base, realizing perhaps there was no Spore ever added on. Why would there be? Usually the Banshees aren't so aggressive, and they will go ahead and push away the mining. Might kill a Queen as well.
So they are going to get that Queen, then that hatchery is taking some pretty big shots. It's low HP. There is nothing over here. I believe some Queens on the way right now, and surely one of them at least has a transfusion. Yes, they do. God, yes. So that is going to be safe, but the Banshees are going to get out alive. Kjur's dropping on the bottom side at the same time, and he's going to take an abusive position here because there's no range units. Kjur's on top of his drop at the top, and he is just absolutely stopping Solar from mining. That's terrifying for Solar.
Yeah. Stop, that's illegal, no. It's very annoying. We don't usually see Terrans really abuse this because the game usually gets so large and fast at this point, I would say, that that's just not something you specifically do. You're trying to racing back into the main over to the 4th base. But the Queens are here, at least some of them, and they will help target fire on the medevac, stop him from being able to just literally sit there. Kjur is really making good use of almost like his accessory units, you know, the 2 drops, the 2 Banshees, opening up opportunities perhaps for now the real big push, taking this area on the high ground with no creep spread to even clean up is actually really bad for Solar. He only just now realizes it's over there.
Yeah, now he's going to have to somehow find a way to fight this army that isn't just, you know, clicking up this ramp, because that's not going to be pretty. There's also still the action in the top right as well. I think Solar's just going to say, right, you take this base, you have outpositioned me, I'm not in position to deal with it, so, you know, take that one. I'll work off 4 base for now. It just goes to show the position that Kjur's put himself into.
Yeah, thank goodness he got those Queens up there to transfuse that hatchery, because it's actually very realistic that Kjur could have gotten 2 in 1 if it was a little bit weaker. But for now, yes, Solar making the wise decision, going ahead and abandoning the bottom left base, and then expanding even further to the top side. It's still worrying, though, because that just means you have even less creep spread and sight on what the Terran could be doing down to the bottom half of the map.
Yeah, no, it is rough because at the moment it's just all the momentum in Kjur's side. Solar doesn't have any sort of buffer to help him against that. The creep spread isn't really that fantastic. Maybe a little bit through the middle, it's okay, but Kjur doesn't care about the middle of the map. He's pushing the top or he's pushing the bottom every single time. And right now he's continuing to edge toward the main base and just this bottom side even further.
The macro is really great here from Kjur. He's the one that's banking all the minerals and gas. Solar's starting to a little bit as he has maxed out, but yeah, the momentum is on Kjur's side. Excellent use of positioning and his micro and his multitasking, and Solar is getting a little offset here. He might go ahead and break through this as Viper slap down the blinding clouds, and there's enough Ling Baneling, I guess, but the tanks, again, are getting so many more shots than you'd really hope for, and the drop in the main, I think, is still continuing. What is there to stop it?
Absolutely nothing. The Queen goes down. The drones are going to start dropping. Now we're pushing the top right, but Kjur, he's not watching here, so these Banelings will clean up. Okay. That wasn't so pretty. Suddenly Kjur's lost an army on the bottom and an army on the top, and that in-sync loss is a little scary because his supply dips. He has the money to rebuild. It will just take him a couple of production cycles.
Blink and you miss 2 things, and suddenly I feel like the momentum's completely reset.
and Solar's about to hit Lurkers as well, right? Which is
yes,
where,
yeah.
you know, we've not really talked about it, but Solar, one of his kind of natural states in ZVT is just to be dying constantly until he gets lurkers. Then it's like, okay, finally, I can play this matchup. And then he looks so good from there on out. So terrifying for Q that Solo is getting to this stage.
He's dying with grace, okay, Woody? Like, no, but you're right. Like, this is the worst time to lose map controls as your opponent hits that kind of power spike of the initial lurkers. And I do say initial because lurkers might be a little less useful the more that ghosts come out, the more that Cure really sets up a turtle situation, which he has been doing. You know, he was aggressive and he did over-aggress a little bit there for sure, but the foundation behind it, the ability to transfer over into, let's say, this type of TVZ, a little more of the turtle Terran, it's set. So Solar still, I feel like, kind of having to be concerned about how he's really going to play out the late game.
No, absolutely. His group threat in the middle of the map getting cleaned up. The bio did a pretty decent job there. Another hatchery will come down. Look at the difference that the last couple of minutes has made. Suddenly Solo's taking bases everywhere. He's comfortably getting creep in front of some of these bases too. Maybe not so much on the bottom, but definitely working on it up in the top. And it's just such a different feel of the game. And I think Cure realizes, hey, it's time to add factories. It's time to look towards the later stages. I might just have to turtle up here on Babylon.
I think he will. And now it's Solar's time to be aggressive. SCVs have to be pulled away, which it looks like it will be pulled away to safety, but the Blinding Cloud actually coming in, pushing some of those units forward, of course, stopping them from attacking. However, it looks like in the bottom left, an unsuccessful attempt to break the planetary thanks to a quick pull on the SCVs to repair. Kira does take almost 30 SCV losses, but he has so many command centers.
Yeah, replacing SCVs is not a major issue. Keeping that bottom left base alive is so nice because that's a lot of Zerg units thrown in to do nothing, and then immediately this counterattack from Kiri says, okay, let's see what you've got. So we'll get a couple units up, but he did lose one hatchery of position. He will also lose this hatchery. These are very, very daring hatcheries, very far forward, and not hatcheries you need right now as the Zerg.
Wow, yeah, Kira's actually immediately back on and attacking in 3 different locations, main base included. Another hatchery might go down before the lurkers can respond. They don't have that speed burrow, so certainly they do not respond in time. A Nidus Swarm, however, from Solar is in Kira's main base, completely undetected, but there's nothing in it. It's like he didn't expect it to actually pop up, of course, to preoccupy defending all of the bases that just went down.
The perfect Nidus, and we get a single lurker out. That is not enough when the ghosts have already shown up. If there was like 5 or 6 lurkers in there, that would have been amazing. Full medevac goes down though. Solo with a little bit of momentum into this fight. Great Blinding Cloud to start us out as well. Parasitic Bomb going to start working through the medevacs also, and Cure is too busy having to split away as the Barons crash on through, dealing a good amount of damage. Solo loses a lot, Cure loses a lot, but Solo still has money to rebuild.
Yeah, exactly. Even though he lost a couple of hatcheries, he did have that slightly bigger bank to start things off, and he is quick to rebuilding the hatchery. So while the economy isn't as good as it could be for Solar, we can see that it is still better with those nice blue arrows. It's definitely an opportunity for Cure to recover and have a second chance here in life, but you know, this kind of ebb and flow that we're getting from both players, it really feels like, okay, well now they've got it. Well, no, they've got it now, and I feel like I'm getting seasickness.
Seasickness is a very good way to phrase it, right? It's this way and that way, and just all over. The banks are absolutely gone, gutted for the moment. Solo will begin to rebuild his, but he might want to be aggressive before then. I mean, he's got to be feeling good with these lurkers up. Cure a little bit on the run. That's going to be Cure to push some of this creep back, which, again, talk about the map control. It's just changed so much in the last 2 or 3 minutes since Solar has taken control and gotten creep out. He's got it everywhere.
Yes, he has, but it feels like Cure is back on track, right? He takes the bottom base. It's now him actually with the economic lead. Lurker harassment and Nidus Swarm harassment will continue as Solar also attacks on the front lines. He's not going to let Cure just easily get that forward command center, but it's not dead, and Cure is still looking for the opportunity.
Still giving Cure absolutely everything he can right now with a Nidus here, an attack over there. There's a couple units top right as well. This time he's going to extend. He's going to go into some of the tank line here, and he is going to find himself a little bit, but maybe not quite enough. Those Hellbats putting in work up top.
A Parasitic Bomb at the last second from that Viper was on top of a lot of weakened medevacs. I do believe Cure did last second micro, but many of them probably went down. I think much more importantly, Solar has to completely reset his attack, so Cure might finally get that command center slapped down, and as a planetary, although this really isn't very forward army. There's no tanks involved with it, and that was still burning, so actually never mind. Never got repaired.
It will drop straight away. I would like Soul to maybe slow down a bit on the Nidus, as it's clear Cure has units in position to defend for the moment. Maybe come back to them like 5 or 6 minutes down the line, where maybe Cure has repositioned a couple units, says, oh, I don't need these here anymore. Right now it feels like he's just using resources for no reason, as he does catch a good fungal to trap a few units and then capitalize with Dilling Bane on the ground after.
Yeah, I think I'm with you. That Night Storm doesn't, maybe will actually get up and running, but Solar on the front lines, taking what he can get. A couple of units that were forward from that command center, but Ghosts are here, Tanks are here, Hellbats are here, Upgrades are here as well. Cure is getting to a very almost perfect late game Terran army. The only thing we're missing is that full-on transition over into mech, like with Thors, but we're getting closer to that stage, and the closer we get to that stage without Solar having a humongous bank, the more worried I am for the Zerg player.
Yeah, usually the Zerg has the money banked up, they're kind of raking in the cash, and then you're able to just say, cool, throw units at you, and maybe you get enough economy to slow the Terran rebuild in one time that your next surge really does even further damage, and you just build on that. But it's difficult to do if you don't have a bank set up. It's very scary to go throwing your army into the Terran player.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, Cure can still be dragged out of position and send a lot of army into very effective banelings, for instance, or lurker damage. Medevac just went down to a Spore Crawler, nicely placed. But you know, the less that Solar actually does major damage with attacks like this, the more I am certainly worried for his chances as the game goes on. His late game is fine, by the way, guys. It just feels like you really have to have more of the map, more of the momentum, and certainly more of the bank to be heading into facing Bio, Hellbat, Ghost, Tank. There you go.
If he was able to preserve the bases he currently has, then brilliant, because he's, you know, 2 bases up over his opponent, essentially. But that is, I just don't think something he'll be able to do. I think those 4 bases are going to be tough to hang on to. And again, he might also be able to deny this bottom left base a little while, and that's going to be one of the real talking points here. How much can each of these players mine as we get a great Fungal? The Ghost's in trouble. They're all going to get wrapped up, and that's a massive victory for Solar.
It looks like Kira might have even been looking away for a hot second, dragging his tanks forward, perhaps, let the Ghosts be that far forward without knowing if there was going to be a Fungal. And there was. Very fantastic opportunity there for Solar. Grabs a very expensive army, but still hasn't really dislodged Cure from that position. And I was smiling at Cure's almost audacity, the orbital command on the front lines. It does mean he can pick up if he's ever in danger and save the orbital, but it looks like his tanks over here now, it's going to be very difficult for Solar to break Cure's base or defend his own.
Or even on the way up from Solar. I kind of love that, though, you know, it gives you so many options in this latest stage of the game. As it looks as though Cure really is setting up the defense on that bottom base, getting further forward with his defense, which almost means as well he will just leech into the Zerg side of the map a little. But now the top side is going to be less protected than ever before, and Solar's going to use this moment to strike, gets an orbital, gets 3 siege tanks to lead into this fight. Let's see how much more he can get. I
do love when the Zerg players realize that if we're extending to the outside bases and that middle might actually be a gut punch. In this case, it did find a couple of slow building units like the tanks, but overall didn't really do a lot of chaos building, you know. Cure kind of calmly dealt with that, still has his armies in positions elsewhere. This isn't the most important base to settle on either. There are still minerals and gas to take, and it'd be funny if we get to 50 minutes and Solar, you know, steals them, but probably more important that Cure makes sure that his 6 o'clock base doesn't get broken or that he breaks Solar's 6 o'clock.
Yeah, this position here is Curious. I mean, there's no way you can defend this as Solar, right? Unless he gets an insane wraparound. He is going to continue to just fight the reinforcements, fight the units up at the top, putting a lot of attention over here. Bane's from the upper right as well. There's just a few Marauders left. They're going to grab and infest. The Banelands crashing into what they can. The Hydras will be the last one standing, but they're not going to defend it too well.
It did feel like there was almost an opportunity, but a tank on the high ground, nice micro from Cure, and kind of coming in from all different directions himself. It kind of turned sour a little bit for Solar, who if he had found Cure really under defending that either the first time or the second time, he breaks into the natural, he breaks into the main base, all hell is loose, right? But nope, Cure has reestablished not just position on the 6 o'clock, of course, but now also up here on the top side. Solar can't be affording to lose 2 of these bases at this point in time as he rushes over to defend the Lurkers, will burrow and maybe take care of things. There's not a lot of ghosts to get snipes here, just those tanks and bio. The Lurkers aren't going to make any more headway without the spellcasters.
We really needed the Vipers here to help out a little bit ahead of time. Now the Lurkers are going to make that dive forward, but the Vipers have not done enough. I don't think the Lurkers are dropping in. Solar's supply is going to absolutely plummet. He realizes this was an engagement too far, and Cure is suddenly going to have full momentum on his side. This is where not having the bank set up is going to cost Solar massively, and Cure is going to move on through some bases.
Yes, he is. Solar is struggling to rebuild back up to 150, much less maxed out, as he tries to at least establish something over on this side. He sends Lings on the tanks, which is usually beautiful. This is usually very efficient, but there was just so much Terran and so few Zerg that even that wasn't really that impressive. And there you have it. Cure will take game number 3.
Impressive stuff from both sides. We saw an excellent game. Cure's resilience, Solar's opportunity taking. he just misplaced a couple of fights, and I think especially just not quite having some of the spellcasters when they were necessary. And I also feel like the Lurkers played such a little role in this game, right? It felt like we almost never saw Lurkers anywhere. And to me, that's kind of one of the strengths you want to try and abuse a little bit, at least here or there.
I think we were, I'm going to say this. I think we were correct saying that the Lurker timing was actually kind of scary when Cure lost that map control, and the Lurkers were a possibility. But then again, they weren't perfect Lurkers. They didn't have both their upgrades, right? So it's always like, well, they aren't actually that great. But that might mean then, as I think back on the entire game, that Cure was just kind of one step ahead.
He was.
Yeah, like to not have even that opportunity as you finally get some map control because Cure made a pretty big mistake. 2 fights really not going his way, but even then he couldn't find an actual opening, and then it felt like he was building into a game that Cure was leading.
To be fair, I guess that was kind of Cure's advantage from having been so good up until this point, right?
Yeah.
Because, yes, this was terrible. He dropped 50 supply, but he'd been so good until then that maybe Solar didn't have that timing window, and then he just, like you say, never really doubled down the Lurkers. Moments like this gave you some hope, but he just never had the bank ready to go. And obviously, we just decided to try and take this fight, and just wasn't pretty at all, was it?
Yeah, and I'm really just not the biggest believer in Lurkers once the Terran has the setup that Cure did. Again, if they can be on the front lines as the Terran player hasn't yet gotten to Ghost, or like a good number of Ghosts, before they actually have, like, let's say 5 or 6 bases slapped down, ready to mine or drop mules, then Lurkers can be great as the Terran is struggling to get to the late game. But Cure not only played out what seemed to be a favorable like early and mid game, but also was one step ahead in the late game. So again, Solar was kind of playing into him, and it's very difficult to do that. I think 20 Lurkers suddenly appearing could still do damage, of course, but when the Ghost and the Turtle is set up, it's really nice for the Terran player. We go into Game 4 here on Dragon Scales in the bottom right. Now 1 game away from those finals. He is Cure.
In the top left, our blue Zerg once again looking to equalize. Solar.
Very tough game for Solar, honestly. The more I think about it, the more I'm just convinced that Cure was just so freaking good.
He played a great game. And, even little things like we talked about the Nidus getting denied a few times, but it was just such good placement of units. Like, his tank was in a position to deny Nidus top right and also left of the main, so he was defending so much potential with as little as possible, which allowed him to still be so present on the map otherwise.
Yeah.
So that's why I just didn't feel like Solar got anything out of any of that.
It's kind of the reverse for other semifinal, to be honest, which is that clearly both players are playing at an extremely high level of TVZ. There is no doubt about that. Solar is playing probably some of his finest TVZ as well. And yet, Cure just seems like a step above, step ahead. It wasn't as perhaps action-packed or as oppressive as something that, Raynor was doing, but it certainly was there, almost a more like sneaky type of oppression where you just realize that you are up against a brick wall that is the Terran player who can both defend, macro, and attack.
Very exciting times. As we've said multiple times, it's career-defining for Cure. If you go this next level, you get that finals appearance. That alone is a ridiculous result. Not a lot of people would have pegged Cure in a finals of this event. When you look at the lineup at the start, yeah, in the round of 8, maybe a semi-final, but a finals? And he's so close to doing it.
Yeah, I mean, Cure has always been on that topic of who is the best Terran, in Korea and then, of course, globally as well. And as you said, not quite able to make a mark on the international tournaments in the way that you would expect from perhaps the second best Terran. But it could be here at Gamers8 and Solar, once again, kind of meeting a very good Terran late in the tournaments. Kind of, I don't know, unlucky is not quite the word, but it's always a huge test for him.
Here's that first Reaper. It was the 2 barracks at the front once again from Cure. So back to that strategy that we saw in game number 1 and game number 2. Next speed starts up on the side of Solar. A couple Queens on the way, and obviously just dancing with this first Reaper. In the main base is the choice of attack from Cure.
Yeah, so this could actually get a couple of Lings, maybe a drone if the Queen's not quite in position, but, actually the Queen could be in trouble. Curious because they got something to say here. Yeah, the second Queen's gonna have to walk up and get help her sister out. Was the creep tumor planted? No, it was an inject.
Yeah. That's
oh, okay, gotcha. In the main base instead.
In the main base. Triple CC again here from Kua, by the way, so just going to go straight towards that macro focus follow-up as he realizes here these Reapers don't have a shot in the main, so he'll back away one more time. Link speed ticking along to give Solar a bit of an easier time against those Reapers, get some of his map control back on track. As Kua can very safely build his add-ons here, get the reactor and tech lab going, he'll have that factory in the main. We'll see what he does with that.
Certainly a, once again, a scary start where Kira is throwing the 2 racks and could be doing anything behind it. But then Solar had such a decisive build in that game too. It looks like he is going to shy away from it this time after seeing the 3 Reaper opener. And perhaps because he's expecting a different follow-up, but also because he is on his last life. So it's very difficult to say I'm going to put all my chips into this Ling Banling bust.
Yep, it's very difficult to push it all into the center and say, let's do this then, as here's a little replay of Reapers, and
oh.
yeah, so I was pretty happy. He's like, yeah, you thought I didn't, you didn't think I'd think you would be back in the main? And I was so prepared.
Well, the Marines are spreading out to hide whatever the heck here is doing. In this case, it does seem like a very standard build. Not the Banshees this time around, but a Liberator instead. But the more that Solar second guesses himself, the better it is for Cure to actually finish up this series. And Cure is going into, it looks to be kind of like a 2-on-1. Again, I think Beyond really prefers the Cloakless Banshee addition to this, but Cure going for Liberator. Well, actually a lot of Hellions. So hold on. Not quite that 2-on-1 I was talking about.
Very fun, isn't it? Is there a world where we drop an armory and we do some kind of like Marine Hellbat push?
Yes, but I actually feel like regular Hellions might be deadlier.
Yeah, very possible as well.
Yeah, the way they can control, obviously. When you build Hellbats and you put them into a Marine army, it's kind of the same end goal, which is that, you have enough Ling Banling, you do it. But with Hellions, there's always that micro to consider. So I think just getting on that map, getting the map control, and possibly to ensure that he doesn't die to Mass Ling and perhaps a Banling bust. And then, yeah, maybe later on add an armory a little bit earlier than you would for your upgrades to once again include them like last game.
Kind of terrified for Solar. I feel these double Evo openings instead of a lair, just so scary when you're playing against anything like this, which is going to have the Marines coming across the map, and then especially with the Hellions kind of join in with it as well, it feels like this could be very dangerous in the next few moments. Liberator's going to start harassing as well, and I Medivacs are out to start bringing some Marines over if Kyo wants to.
That Spore is not going to be in position. Solar's not really dealing with a whole lot else though, so I expect he will respond to this fairly quickly, but I might be wrong. Oh no, that's going to be a couple of drones.
Yeah, that's rough. 3 drones as well. That third one was just about in range. Going to lose some early creep teamers as well, so losing some presence on the right side, and the Medivacs are moving up the left, so Secure is just on the move. He's getting ready. This Liberator can relocate one time if it would like to. The Spore Crawler will have to react, and these Marines could unload and maybe just look for a cancel on the 4th.
Yes, they absolutely could do that. It looks like they're heading into the main base. Yeah, absolutely. Boosting into the main base. The Overlord does see it, but only a slight heads up. Solar rushing back into the main base with, by the way, guys, pure Ling. The Banling Nest is only just now done.
Yeah. That's kind of the brutal part of playing those double Evo chambers is, well, he's going to see the Marines, not just in the main, but kind of behind. I thought he might make a better play to kind of get in between mineral lines or so, but just takes out an extractor. He's still got Reaper Hellion top right, and I don't think there's anything on this right side to defend. A dive on this mineral line could be very scary. Solar, he might need to try and get an Evo chamber up. He will just about get Zerglings here, and now the Reaper Hellion's in trouble. What a clutch defense from Solar, but we're back in the main base with the Marines. Oh
no, and this time around, they're going to get the spawning pool. They could also find any of those nooks and crannies that we thought they would earlier to really abuse themselves against those Lings. This is actually a real problem as a hatchery has to be canceled. The Lings are getting awfully thin here as the Marines stutter step backwards. Solar knows that he has made a mistake here. He knows that he's probably out of this tournament already, and that is actually it. Cure with a very strong 3-1 versus Solar.
I have to say, I was terrified when I saw the Evo chambers, and he just had nothing ready for the combination of attacks. Q played it brilliantly, setting up one side, the other, back again, and just really made it kind of a combination attack to finish Solar off. Move into the finals, and I gotta say, ZG, I'm kind of happy to see him taking it so convincingly because it kind of sets up for really cool finals.
Yes.
Both players won a TVZ convincingly. And it's going to be fun because they played very different opponents in the semi-finals as well. Oh,
yeah.
It's a treat, this tournament.
It's going to be a clash of styles, you know. It's actually super amazing. Not just the typical Korea versus non-Korean, but the styles they're displaying in this matchup that now once again facing. Can Cure keep up with Reiner's speed and aggression, or will Reiner struggle against Cure's ability to actually sit back and turtle a little bit?
Going to be very interesting to see. Solar had a great run here. You know,
yes.
I mean, some amazing results, some solid performances. He took down a Clem, he took down Serral. He made it all the way to these semi-finals, but just couldn't, unfortunately, go any further. Kua is set up to play Reino in the finals. Let's see what he's got to say.
Cure, in your long and storied career, you have played almost 500 games separately against Solar. So how do you regard him as an opponent when you're heading into a match like this?
솔라님랑 500경기 가까이 뭐 상대했는데요. 그 솔라님은 어떤 상대일까요? 그 키올한테.
일단 저랑 스타일이 굉장히 비슷해서 제가 저거였으면 민수처럼 플레이했을 것 같아요. 솔라처럼 플레이했을 것 같아요.
So I think that our style is similar. So I think I would have played like Solar.
زي ما تشوفون معنا كيور أعزائنا المشاهدين بعد ما خلصنا من المباراة قدر يخلصها 3-1 أداء مو طبيعي منه والآن بيكون هو الجراند فاينالست الثاني معنا. في البداية سألناه سؤال على السريع قلنا له بما أنك أنت وسولر لعبتوا ضد بعض أكثر من 500 ماب حرفيا في كل الهيستوري حقهم، وش التجهيزات اللي أنت تمر فيها عشان تدخل المباراة هذه؟ جوابه كان يقول إنه صراحة إحنا أشوف إنه الستايل اللي بيني وبين سولر تقريبا مرة متشابه، فالأجيال حقتنا دائما تكون بنفس المستوى اللي إحنا شاهدناه قبل قليل.
Game 2 was the only game that tripped you up. Do you recall what happened and what your issue was? You were able to overcome?
두 번째 게임에서 무슨 일이 있었을까요?
일단 민수가 무조건 후반 운영 스타일이라서 링링을 할 것 같은데 그냥 배제했는데 좀 그게 좀 아니 솔라 선수가 그래서 좀 더 고민을 많이 했었어야 했는데 그게 좀 아쉬웠던 부분인 것 같아요.
So Solar player is usually a player that attacks later of the game, but I didn't think of this that this would happen, but he attacked me at the first of the game, and that was a surprise for me.
في السؤال الثاني مع كيور سألناه عن الماتش اللي صار ما بينه وبين سولر في الماب الثاني بحيث ان سولر قدر ياخذ عنه الفوز، فكيف قدر انه يقدر يسوي شيء هذا اصلا؟ كان الجواب يقول انه بالعاده دائما سولر يلعب في الليت جيم، ما يحاول انه يسوي شيء في الارلي جيم ابدا، لكن المره هذه عكسها بالنسبه لي وقدر يخلص الجيم بدري وحاول انه يصير اجريسيف من البدايه، وهذا الشيء هو اللي ساعده للفوز.
You're a veteran of many tournaments, but now you're heading into the grand finals of the very first tournament at G8 in Riyadh here for StarCraft 2. What does it mean to you?
파이널까지 올라갔는데 그 선수한테 어떤 의미일까요?
솔직히 제가 우승을 바라보고 연습을 정말 절실하게 했는데 이게 현실이 될 줄은 정말 몰랐고 지금 믿기지 않고 오랜만에 찾아온 기회인 만큼 꼭 놓치기 싫은 순간인 것 같아요.
So I practiced for this a lot, and I wanted to go to the finals and win this. It's a opportunity that I will not drop it. So I'll do my best to win.
في السؤال الأخير في مقابلتنا مع كيور كنا نسأله عن شعوره بحكم أنه صار الآن موجود في الجراند فاينل معنا ضد رينر، ومباراة راح نشهدها بعد قليل إن شاء الله. كان يقول أنه أنا صراحة أشوف أنه أنا يعني جتني فرصة جدا كبيرة وأنا ما راح إني أضيعها، فأكيد إني بحاول أعطي كل اللي عندي عشان أفوز المباراة.
It is a great opportunity, but to get that opportunity to claim first place, you have to go through Reiner. How do you feel about your chances?
그 레이너랑 할 건데 그 파이널에서 그거 어떻게 생각하시는지 결과가 어떻게 하는지.
일단 레이너 선수가 지금 포스가 장난이 아니라고 생각해서 제가 지금까지 했던 거를 다 쏟아 부어야 좀 가능성이 있을 것 같아서 최선을 다해 보도록 하겠습니다.
I don't see Reiner as an easy player. I will pour all my strength into this game, and I will do my best to win this.
في السؤال الإضافي اللي سألناه كيور، نتكلم عن مباراته ضد رينر بعد قليل إن شاء الله، كيف هو بيكون مجهز لها؟ إذا في شيء معين يعني ناوي إنه يسويه في المباراة. كان يقول إنه لا صراحة أشوف إنه ما عندي إلا إني بعطي كل اللي عندي في هذه المباراة، وأشوفه إنه يعني خصم جدا جدا قوي، فبحاول قد ما أقدر إني أقدر أخذ الفوز منه، وهذا كان جوابه.
The power of tournament experience and the power of believing in yourself. It is carrying these two players so far into the finals. But let's send it back to the desk to take a closer look at the match that got him here.
خلاص الآن أعزائي المشاهدين ما بقى إلا مباراة واحدة فقط، بيست اوف 7 ما بين كيور وما بين رينر. لكن قبل ما نتكلم عن المباراة هذه لازم نعرف وش صار ما بين سولر وكيور، فعلى طول نروح للاستوديو التحليلي نتكلم أكثر عن هذه المباراة.
That's right, Kure and his control over Korean Zergs continues to look strong here at Gamers8. As unfortunately for Solar, he wasn't able to find that special spice here against Kure. And now our Terran moves on to that grand final. Welcome back to the desk here. I've got Loco and Rotterdam to talk about this one. Loco, this was all over. Kure looking fantastic, moving now into this final.
Yeah, he played some really cool strategies as well, right? I mean, we started off in game number 1. On Ancient Cistern, where he ended up starting his game off with a double barracks triple Reaper opener, which is something we see so often. It's one of the most common builds, especially from the Korean Terrans. And then he makes that transition into Battle Mech while faking Stimpech. Honestly, one of the coolest games of the entire tournament.
Really cool build, and it worked like a charm.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like Stefano against MVP, Lings and Banes against Mech. Yeah, you're gonna have a hard time connecting. I really did think that game 2 was fantastic for Solar. Such a quick and easy win. Obviously a cheesy, ultra committed build, but to get a weird like negative memory or experience at game 1 out of your system that quickly, I was like, all right, now we're all tied up and we're going to have a banger series. And I did think Babylon was an excellent game, but where Reina was just able to get those good trades against Clem over and over again, it kind of felt that Solar was never able to find those big victories over Kure in some of those big important battles. And unfortunately, game 4 was a bit of a one-sided affair.
Yeah, Kure, of course, with these drops, able to really put the nail in the coffin here against Solar. And hey, I mean, you know, if he's able to bring this kind of flair here going up against Reina, maybe he has an opportunity here. We will see. But look at that. Look how happy he is. This means a lot to him, especially considering now moving up into a guaranteed position. He gets himself at least $65,000 for second place. It's a 35,000 jump from the semis.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. I'm sure he's going to be pretty happy with that, but he will certainly be looking at that first place prize as well, right?
Yes.
But he's going to have to take down Raynor to go ahead and do so. And in that first semifinals, we saw that Raynor was looking incredibly sharp, especially game number 1 against Clem that was beautiful.
Yeah.
Kure's having a week though so far, James. Like sure, Sero and Maru got the best of him, but besides that, he has looked incredibly complete as a player.
Yeah.
And for me, a big question mark was how is he going to maintain himself? How is he going to handle himself? Semi-finals, international stage. We've seen him have some success in Korea and the GSL Kodes, once upon a time a champion and overall a couple of decent runs. But this really is new territory to him, but it didn't hinder him at all. He played as good as we know Kure can play.
Yeah.
And if, in all honesty, he kind of made short work of Solar, and that's very impressive because Solar's had a great tournament as well.
And Solar looked great in this matchup, especially throughout the tournament as a whole. Well, thank you very much, gentlemen. Time to go to a break. We are going to that, and then when we return, it's the grand final here. One of these players is going to be walking away with $150,000. Will it be Reina or will it be Kure? Stay tuned.